To be honest, you can't kill 100 men with one single move. I know. Demon Slayer lied to you. Every samurai anime you've ever watched lied to you. But here's the thing. What you actually could do as a samurai, way more interesting. So let's fix that. You wake up, Feudal Japan. Somewhere between 1600 and 1868, the Edo period, the Golden Age, the time when samurai weren't just warriors, they were the most respected and feared class in all of Japan. Welcome to your new life. First things first, who are you? You're not just some guy with a sword. You are part of the warrior class, top 10% of Japanese society. Farmers bow when you walk past. Merchants move out of your way. You have 2 swords on your belt at all times, a long katana and a short wakizashi. You were born into this. Your father was a samurai. His father was a samurai. And from the moment you could walk, your entire life was pointed in one direction: service, discipline, honor, no detours. Your day starts at 4 a.m. No alarm, no phone, no snooze button, just a rooster, and the sound of your own regret. You wash your face with cold water, you meditate, you clear your mind before the day even begins. Then training starts, and not the cool kind. We're talking hours of the same sword drill, the same swing, over and over and over again, 10,000 times until it stops being a movement and becomes a reflex. You spend 3 years just learning how to stand correctly. 3 years just standing. But here's what nobody tells you. The sword was the last option, not the first. You trained in archery, horse riding, swimming, strategy, writing, and poetry, and tea ceremonies, poetry, tea, and sword fighting. That's your Tuesday. Because a samurai wasn't just a fighter. He was supposed to be educated, disciplined, and calm. The best samurai were the ones who never needed to draw their sword at all. Every samurai lived by a code called Bushido, the way of the warrior. 7 rules, simple but brutal: courage, respect, honesty, honor, compassion, loyalty, and self-control. Sounds clean, right? Here's where it gets heavy. If you broke the code, if you brought shame to yourself or your lord, there was one way to restore your honor, seppuku. You ended your own life, ceremonially, with your short sword. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't a story to scare young samurai. It happened regularly, and samurai faced it without flinching because to them, a life without honor wasn't a life worth living. Let that sit for a second. You don't serve Japan. You serve one man, your lord, your daimyo. Every training session, every battle, every boring administrative task, all for him, his land, his orders, his honor. You don't negotiate, you don't question, you obey. But here's the dark side nobody talks about. What if your lord dies? You become a ronin, a samurai with no master, no income, no status, no home, just your sword and an empty road stretching in front of you. Some ronin became bodyguards. Some became criminals. Some just wandered from town to town, looking for a purpose they never found again. Alone. There's a reason the most tragic stories in Japanese history are about ronin. Because there is nothing worse for a samurai than having nothing left to be loyal to. All right, let's talk about actual fighting. Real samurai battles were not beautiful sword duels at sunset. They were loud, chaotic, terrifying. Thousands of men, arrows flying, horses screaming, spears everywhere, and you in the middle of it trying to remember 3 years of training in 3 seconds. Your katana was actually used less than your spear in large battles. Spears were more practical in a crowd. The katana was for close quarters, for the moment things got dangerously personal. And here's the stat that will blow your mind. Most samurai never fought in a major battle their entire lives. The Edo period was actually mostly peaceful, 2.5 centuries of relative calm, which means the most feared warrior class in Japanese history, spent most of their time as administrators, government officials, tax collectors. You trained every single day of your life for a war that never came. And you did it anyway, every morning at 4 a.m., because that's what the code demanded. Nothing lasts forever. In 1868, everything changed. The Meiji Restoration. Japan opened its doors to the Western world. Guns replaced swords. Modern armies replaced warrior classes. And just like that, after nearly 1,000 years, the samurai class was abolished. By law, you couldn't carry your swords in public anymore. Your status was gone, your identity, everything you were trained to be since you were 5 years old, erased overnight. Some samurai adapted, became politicians, police officers, businessmen. Some couldn't let go. The last true samurai rebellion in the Satsuma Rebellion of 1877 was a group of warriors who refused to accept that their world was over. They marched with swords against soldiers with rifles. You already know how that ended. But here's what gets me about that moment. They knew they were going to lose. They went anyway. Because to them, dying as a samurai was better than living as something else. So what was a samurai really? Not a superhero. Not a one-man army. A human being who woke up at 4 a.m. every single day and chose discipline over comfort. Who carried a code so seriously that everything else, fame, money, even survival, came second. Anime gave you the sword fights. History gave you something harder to find. A person who actually believed in something completely, without compromise. And in a world where most people can't even keep a promise to themselves for a week, that's the most unbelievable thing about samurai. Not the sword, the commitment. You just lived a samurai's life. Next time, we're dropping you somewhere even more dangerous. If you're curious about another life, you know what to do. See you in another life.